Something I've said a lot over the last year is that there's no such thing as a story you can't tell using Green Lantern, and that comes from the fact that the Green Lantern Corps is made up of a massively diverse cast of thousands of different members from every background you can imagine. And if you can think of a culture and perspective that isn't represented already, it's easy enough to create another character, because when you have a Corps of 70 to 100 members, what's one more? It's different from what most franchises do. Usually you stick with the protagonist you have, and they either become a cipher to explore specific issues, or they facilitate those issues being explored through that story's supporting cast. Green Lantern is different though. They're a big group of protagonists. The title of the franchise refers to all of them, and they take turns being the focus of the story. So if you're a creator with a very specific, personal story you want to tell, you don't have to figure out a way to make it fit into the life of Hal Jordan or John Stewart. You can introduce someone new, a Green Lantern who's specifically built to tell your story like no other could, ready to take their turn as the main character. And that's where writer Mihn comes in. He comes from a family of immigrants and refugees, and had an incredibly strong grandmother who weathered untold hardships to give her grandchildren a better life, and she always wore a jade ring. From there, everything just sort of fell into place, with Green Lantern becoming the perfect template to tell a story that honors and celebrates his grandmother, while exploring what that legacy means when the very existence of your culture seems to invite harassment from ignorant people. What does that do to your relationship to your heritage? How do you cope with fears that seem to be so intrinsically tied to who you are? A Green Lantern ring works by taking something that lives within you, a thought, a feeling, a memory, anything within you that matters, and brings it out into the world for everyone to see in a way that makes it impossible for you to deny the power and impact this piece of you has. It's pure, unfiltered personal expression that requires you to overcome your fears in order to become your best self, forcing you to learn the truth of who you really are and what really matters to you. The true power of Green Lantern is the power to change. The ring is the most powerful tool in the universe, and its most impressive feat is to light a path for those who wear it as they navigate their own hearts and minds. And that goes both for the characters wearing the rings and the creators telling their stories. And look, I get it. A new writer coming along and adding another new lantern to the pile is something that not everyone is going to want to deal with. But after reading Tai's story and coming to understand why Mihn wanted to tell it, you really couldn't have told this story without Tai. Because while there are things about it that everyone should be able to relate to, it's by no means a one-size-fits-all story where you can swap in your favorite protagonist. It matters that Tai is Vietnamese. It matters that he comes from a family of immigrants. Hell, it matters that he's 13 years old. Tai Pham is a really cool character that a lot of people have latched on to, and I have to believe it's because Tai's story is based on the author's actual lived experiences that many find relatable, as told through the emotional exploration and cosmic wonder inherent to Green Lantern. If you haven't experienced this character for yourself and you're interested, read Green Lantern Legacy by Mihn and Andy Tong. It's Tai's first appearance and his most substantial story content so far. It's a really cool story. Just remember that it takes place outside of regular continuity and is aimed at a younger audience. Mihn did return to tell another short story about Tai and his grandmother in DC Festival of Heroes: The Asian Superhero Collection #1, an anthology celebrating just some of DC's awesome Asian characters. I wouldn't recommend you get this book just for the Green Lantern stuff, since Tai's story is only 3 pages long, but I would still highly recommend the issue, since these characters are great, and I haven't seen some of them in years, and a lot of their stories in this issue were really touching. Tai's story isn't even bad, it's just super short. It gets in, makes its point, reminds us how cool his grandmother was, and then gets out. I'd have preferred it to have been longer, but the issue overall is still a really solid good time. The only other time Tai has shown up inside of narrative content was the second to last issue of Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp's run on The Green Lantern, which may imply Tai coming into regular continuity at some point, but I think it's most likely part of Morrison's meta-commentary on the way fans talk about these characters. Still, you never know what could happen down the line. Other than that, Tai's only shown up in a couple cool pinups, in both Festival of Heroes and the Green Lantern 80th anniversary issue, but they're both really cool looking, so I think they're worth mentioning. As long as Mihn still has stories to tell about Tai, I welcome it with open arms. What he's been doing with this character speaks to everything that makes Green Lantern great, and reminds us that below the surface level of cool space battles and flashy superheroics, there's a foundation of shared humanity that connects us all and invites us to understand each other better. Tai Pham may not be your favorite Green Lantern, but as long as his unique stories are being told, he's a reminder of why the core is so powerful. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification to make sure you never miss a new one. You can follow Mosaic Comics on Twitter, and the script for this video is available at mosaiccomics.blogspot.com, links in the description below. And while you're down there, leave a comment with your feelings on Tai, his story, and the Festival of Heroes Asian Superhero Celebration Anthology. The Cassandra Cain Batgirl story at the beginning was my favorite, though I really enjoyed seeing Connor Hawke again. He'll always be my Green Arrow. Thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.